grassroots citizens group in the country actually fighting for student loan justice. So we've been around for 15 years, folks. For 15 years, we very moderately fought for the return of bankruptcy protections to student loans. Nobody wants to file for bankruptcy. It's a terrible thing to have to do. But it turns out that in the absence of bankruptcy, the lending system will turn predatory and hyperinflationary. So student loans are the only type of loan in our nation's history to be uniquely stripped of both bankruptcy rights, which the Founding Fathers called for in the Constitution, by the way, and statutes of limitations. So this 1-2 punch has given the lenders, including the Department of Education, a license to steal from us, and it's given the colleges carte blanche to jack their prices through the roof. 15 years, folks. In 2006, we were featured top story on 60 Minutes with our research and our members. And I'm happy to report that Sallie Mae, which is the worst student loan company in the country, and the Department of Education both declined to be interviewed for this piece. So, quite frankly, what began as a 2-year project, which is student loan justice, has become a 15-year ordeal. And I'm very glad to announce tonight, folks, that as of the past 2 weeks, we have become a bit more radical. Instead of fighting very moderately for the return of bankruptcy protections, we are now calling on the president to issue an executive order canceling all federally held student loans. We're also calling on him to issue another executive order calling on the Department of Education to stop pursuing borrowers, stop opposing borrowers in bankruptcy court. So I know a lot of people are thinking, well, if he cancels all loans, then what's the point of bankruptcy? Well, he can't cancel all loans. By executive order, the president can cancel all federally held student loans. So that's all the direct loans, and that's FFELP loans that went into default and were transferred directly to the department. But the old style FFELP loans and also Perkins loans and also all private loans, they're still stuck. So we are also calling on Congress to pass S 1414 and HR 2648 that would return student loans to the universe of all other loans in this country, in that they would have exactly the same uniform bankruptcy protections. So that's what we're doing, and I'm very glad to tell you that as of this morning, we passed 200,000 signatures on our change.org petition to the president, calling on him to do that first thing I just said, cancel student loans, all student loans the federal government holds by executive order. So that's really good, folks. This petition's only a couple of weeks old, and 200,000 people is a great start. But folks, I'm telling you, of 55 million people who have student loans or are co-signed on them, 80% of them are not able to pay off their loans. They're not paying their debt down. They're in default. They're in deferment. They're in forbearance. They are losing big time sleep over their student loans. So what is that? 80% of 55 million. That's somewhere around 7 million people. It's a lot of people, folks. Like, a lot of people. And now, another distinction I need to make, there's another group out there that's they say they're pushing for loan cancellation, but really they're trying to get Congress to pass a huge tax that will create a new pot of wealth for them to administer. And I mean the Department of Education by and large, but also the private loan companies who they want new tax money so that they can play around with it and they can sell their crappy loans to the federal government and get paid full book value or more for these loans. So number one, we've seen this before. It's just not going to happen. Congress is not going to pass a $1.5 trillion or more, $1.8 trillion tax and use it to cancel student loans. It's just not going to happen. We have been fighting with Congress for many years just to get the very moderate protection of bankruptcy protections back. And I can tell you that compared to bankruptcy protections, getting all student loans canceled by Congress by raising that tax I just said, that's like climbing Mount Everest as opposed to climbing a flight of stairs. And I'm telling you, folks, getting bankruptcy rights restored has been a massively difficult task. So that's the beauty of our angle of attack. The president could do this tomorrow. No congressional tax appropriation needed, no congressional approval needed, and not one penny added to the national debt. So the time has come for this petition, folks. The time has come, and it's a very good thing that we made the leap from bankruptcy to canceling all loans. And just in the past, since this corona crisis has happened, 3 different op-eds, including one in the Washington Post, have all called for exactly what we are calling for. So just be aware of that distinction, because the other group that's pushing that other petition, calling on Congress to do stuff, we've watched this group operate for almost a decade now. I can tell you that something is very not right with this group. In fact, when they first came on the scene, this kind of a little bit of inside baseball for you here, but when they first came on the scene, all of a sudden they had like 500,000 members, which was like, what's going on here? And then this group went to great lengths to literally sabotage our push for the return of bankruptcy protections. And we were like, what is going on with this group? So some of our members started looking into them, and it turned out that at least one of the administrators of this group had come fresh from the war room of something called the DCI group. Google the DCI group, and your jaw will drop. This is an AstroTurf. It's a lobbying firm in Washington, D.C. What this thing does, the DCI group, and they got a bunch of subsidiaries. It's very all confusing. It's a big swampy mess. But what they do is take money from banks, investment companies, oil companies, tobacco companies, and they create fake grassroots movements on behalf of those interests. This group, the DCI group, they were credited in, I think, 1998 or something like that. They were credited for doing a stealth lobbying campaign in the Senate that killed legislation which would have prevented the subprime home mortgage crisis. So we're talking about very nasty, nasty people here. Anyways, and people ask me, what group are you talking about, Ellen? And guys, I'm not even going to mention their name, because I will not give the other group free advertisement. They are slimy, swampy, disgusting creatures, and there's just not enough time in my universe to talk about them, much more than I already have tonight. So just to summarize, dudes, the president canceling student loan debt by executive order is by far and away the easiest, most efficient, most appropriate, and most needed legislative or executive action that you can think of. So do everything that you can to push that petition. I mean, really, any of you who have been with our group for any length of time will realize that we are truly a grassroots group. We don't have a media team and a marketing department and agents and a studio. We are truly as true as grassroots gets. Our roots are grassier than anybody, anywhere, anytime. We are grassroots. And that means that every one of us, each one of our little blades of grass, it all depends on what we do as individuals to smash this problem. Now remember, we've got a huge muscle to flex. We comprise the large majority of all student loan borrowers, the large majority. Although we only have 13,000 people in this group, we do have 200,000 signatures on our petition, folks. And right now, that is where I am asking all of you to devote your energies over the weekend. Now, I don't know what goes on with these petitions, but one day we'll add 60,000 signatures, another day we'll add 1,000. So I don't know, but I do know that when everybody watches starting to work in Twitter now on this petition. And I'm not the greatest Twitter guy in the world, folks. I have to tell you, I can't stand Twitter. I think technology jumped the shark when Twitter came around, but nonetheless, I think Twitter offers us great potential to get 1 million, 5 million. Second of all, to cease all collection activities. So it's a very subtle turn of phrase, but big difference between ordering and asking. And we're already getting reports all over the place of people who are indeed still getting their wages garnished, still being pursued by collection companies. And by the way, if this is happening to you, please PM me or email me, justice@studentloanjustice.org. You know, the media needs to know about this. In fact, all the stuff I just said has been unreported to, as far as I can tell. So you heard it here first. And if there still is any responsible media out there, which I'm beginning to wonder, who can rip themselves away from the current crisis, this is very important to a lot of people. You know, my best estimate is that somewhere around 18 or 20% of the people with student loans are sitting in default right now. And another probably 10% or more have recently paid their way out of default and are headed for default again. But the big number, folks, is that by my best estimates, something like 75% of all student loan borrowers, maybe 80%, are going to default on their loans. We already know that 80% of all borrowers cannot pay their loans down, or they're in deferment, forbearance, default, or otherwise delinquent. So we comprise the large majority of all student loan borrowers, folks, and that is the most important thing that I'll say. So I'm sorry about the bad news, Kelly, but it's important that people realize that. And you know, there is true powers in word of mouth. You know, if everybody watching this thing right now, which is, who knows, maybe 10 or 20 people, if we all pushed 3 people to plug the crap out of that petition and tell them to plug 3 people who they know, like, and trust and can get to do stuff, you know, that stuff, that mushrooms very quickly. And so I hope that you will do that. If you look up or you look to the side, you'll see there's one major thing we're asking everybody to do tonight, and that will take you literally 2 seconds, and that is to retweet our tweet. I know, I don't even like saying tweet. I feel humiliated just saying that word, but whatever, dudes. Twitter apparently, it's it. So just do that. Play along, please. I'm playing along. Please play along. Retweet that tweet and retweet it. Well, I guess you can only do that once, but just do at least that, please. You know, beyond that, I mean, if you've got maybe 20 seconds to spare instead of like 3 seconds, maybe also Twitter it to somebody famous, like Oprah Winfrey or Barack Obama or Bill Clinton or Chelsea Clinton or Joe Rogan or Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson or Taylor Swift or Tom Hanks or, please stop me. You get the point. Hey, Kelly also says, I think we can, and by the way, I love your comments in situ. I love to respond to them on the fly. It makes things a little funner for everybody. Kelly Arnold says, I think we can reach the members and let them join us so we can have more numbers and more power to make change. Right, exactly. I totally agree. The members are not corrupt. Oh, yes. No, you're absolutely right, Kelly. This other group whose name I shall not mention, their members are our members. They're just normal people. And, you know, their members, along with our members who I talk to, who have been in that group for any length of time, they pretty quickly come to the same conclusion. Every day they say something different, and it doesn't really seem like they're actually doing anything, but they just want to keep us here. And yeah, that's true. That's exactly what they want to do, Kelly. This other group, they're using their group as hunting grounds. Because it turns out that particularly defaulted borrowers, but really all student loan borrowers who may want to consolidate their loans, but particularly defaulted borrowers are huge money makers for the student debt collection industry. They really, really, really want to get you to rehabilitate your defaulted loans. Because that way, if they can con, and it is a con, if they can con you into signing for a new, much, much larger loan, undefaulted loan, a rehabilitated loan, they get a 16% commission off your back, off your future earnings. So, you know, if you have a $100,000 defaulted loan and they convince you to sign for a brand new $150,000 or $60,000 loan, well, what is that? That's that's like $24,000 payday for them. Like, here you go, $24,000, good job. So you can see why it's so lucrative for them, but you can also, you need to know that these rehabilitated loans default again around 75% of the time. And in fact, going forward, it's closer to 80%, maybe even 90% of the time. So these rehabilitated loans are totally terrible, people. They're so dangerous, they're so harmful. But the people on the internet are like, hey, I can help you with your defaulted loan. They don't give a shit about you. They're going to wreck you, and they don't care because money talks. You know, if you can con even 2 people a year to do what I just said, that's like $35,000 right there. You can get 1 person a week to do that? Fuck, you could make $1 million in a year, no problem. So, and we, by the way, we will never do that. We have been doing this since 2006, and we vowed a long time ago that we would never sell our members out. We would never take money from bad people and do shady deals with shady people. We would never, well, I wouldn't mind making advertising, but that's just disgusting because the kind of advertising that would happen if we signed up for that sort of thing would be disgusting, vulture, predatory advertising. So we don't do that. By the way, the only place we make any money, and it's not much, by the way, are donations. Straight donations from normal people who appreciate the hard work that we're doing here and the results that we're getting. So yeah, no, their members are totally normal people. Like you, like me, like just normal people. But they have been badly misled by very savvy, very well-resourced, very smart and clever people who, you know, I'm running out of breath here. Just I don't want to dwell on this topic. It makes my blood boil a little bit. But bad people are on the internet. Bad people do bad things. This group is not bad. That much I can tell you for sure, and I hope that you will tell a friend. Because everybody with student loans truly needs this group, and we need them. We are the only group of significant size that is legitimately fighting for student loan justice, and I hope that you'll remember that. We've stood the test of time. Ed McKinley stood the test of time. You know, we're not doing this for money. We're doing this because it's the right thing to do. And everybody in this group, including myself, is a student loan borrower. I am a defaulted student loan borrower. And at this point, I'm wearing it as a badge of honor. So let me just let me a little too much in the comments. Yeah, Ed, you're exactly right. That other group, they allow predators to work their group. They use their group as a hunting grounds. And Kelly Arnold again says that stinks. They can take the stimulus money. Yeah, I know, Kelly. It's everything about student loans stinks. And folks, I'm telling you, this is a failed lending system. Right now, almost nobody is paying on their student loans. 6 months from now, even if the economy is better, and I hope it is, obviously, but you know, this is the natural breaking point for the entire lending system, certainly for federal loans. So, before, I mean, this petition is so important, I cannot tell you. We've never done a petition in the past that's gotten more than, I think, 10 or 12,000 signatures. Well, we have 200,000 signatures on this now. This is the right idea at the right time, exactly perfect. Because we don't want to burden the taxpayers with more national debt or raising more tax money. We don't want to do that, and we don't do that with this executive order. Now, a lot of people are like, hey, how can that be? That sounds too good to be true. And I'm telling you, it is absolutely 100% legitimate. canceling student loans by executive order will absolutely not require one dime of congressionally appropriated tax money, and it will not add one penny to the national debt. And by the way, the Department of Education certainly over the past decade, has made a massive profit on these loans. So that of that $1.5 trillion in federal loans outstanding, my guess, and nobody knows, I'm an expert, many people are expert, but not one expert, including those at the Department of Education, can tell you what the ratio is of that 1.5 trillion from between principal and interest, like original principal and interest. But my best guess is that maybe $600 billion of that 1.5 trillion is actual unpaid interest. And because the government's been profiting 50, 60, 70, maybe $80 billion a year on this thing for the past 10 years running, there's a very good chance that that this executive order, which we are pushing this petition for, would not, on balance, wind up costing the taxpayers even one nickel. So I mean, I agree. To wipe away all that debt, I mean, it would take away future revenue for the taxpayer. But the taxpayer has broken even already. And remember, in 1965, when the Higher Education Act was rolled out, President Lyndon Baines Johnson declared that the student loans, our student loans today that we're living under, he declared that those student loans would be free of interest. Free of interest. That makes sense. So I don't know how we wandered so far from those original guarantees, that presidential guarantee. But clearly we have, because today over $100 billion is clicking off in interest alone on this lending system. It's a failed system, folks. No matter how you slice it or dice it, no matter how you spin it, skew it, those numbers don't lie. 80% of all borrowers will never be able to pay off their loans. $100 billion in interest a year clicking off. And by the way, that 80% figure, that's not me just saying, yeah, I looked at this thing and I cherry-picked this data and cherry-picked that data. No. This comes directly from the former head of the Federal Office of Student Aid. The Office of Federal Student Aid, I should say. Wayne Johnson, a Republican, a Trump appointee. He came in, ran the lending system for 7 months. And after 7 months, he said, you know what? I'm gone. I resign. And by the way, this lending system is fundamentally broken. So folks, I'm telling you, this corona crisis, whatever you want to call it, it is a great opportunity to end, to kill, and replace this lending system. This thing was falling of its own weight in the first place. It's time to say goodbye to all federal student loans. It just is. This gives Congress and the President and the Secretary of Education a great opportunity to clean house, reset, restart, reprice the price of college, by the way, which absolutely needs to happen. It opens up a universe of opportunity to get this thing right, rather than let this train go into the cliff, off the cliff. So I could not be more proud and more honored to be fighting this fight, and I hope that you all agree. It truly is history that we are making here, folks. Jenny asks, are we getting any closer to getting the president to do an executive order? And the answer is absolutely yes. I happen to know that household name people within the innermost sphere of the Trump administration have read the article that we wrote at the Washington Examiner and other articles that other people we know have written. And I happen to know that they are, and certainly were as of about a month and a half ago, giving very serious consideration to an executive order returning bankruptcy protections to student loans. This current executive order, which I agree is far more drastic, I know that they are thinking about it, but I don't know much more than that. I do know that there are 55 million people with student loans who vote. And they're not all Democrats. They don't all hate Trump. The majority of those 55 million people are independents. So, just from a coldly calculating political standpoint, there is no better opportunity for Donald Trump to do a very conservative thing, to put a check on big government with this lending system. Um, you know, save the taxpayer, stimulate the economy massively without having to raise new taxes or add to the national debt, and greatly ingratiate himself to, I'm going to say, probably 30 million voters who could go either way in this next election. So the closer we get to the election, the closer I think our chances become. Um, and I will also say, and I don't want to say this in a really, so this is not me. This is not me being like opportunistic or anything. But as this crisis continues and gets worse, our chances do in fact get better. I mean, that's just the truth. I wish this thing would end tomorrow. I wish that, because I still think that we're in very good shape, no matter what. But certainly as this crisis continues, the window of opportunity is there for us. So, but this, the window of opportunity for this crisis is probably pretty short, guys, because maybe I'm an optimist, but I'm quite sure that the death rates in New York and other cities are going to start going down precipitously, like dramatically, as hydroxychloroquine is introduced and plasma therapy and so forth. Really, once the hospitals get rolling with that. So I think that's going to happen sooner rather than later. But that does not alter the fact that this is indeed a failed lending system. And we have an opportunity right now and going forward, I don't know how long it'll last, to push the crap out of this petition. So, oh boy, another comment from Kyle. Yeah, right. Kyle is a perfect example. He's an independent. I'm guessing he probably leans a little conservative, actually, which I respect and totally agree with in many ways. We are a nonpartisan group, by the way, so we have the most left-leaning liberals from Massachusetts to the most right-leaning cowboys from Texas on our group, and I kid you not. We don't discriminate. We love that. We think that our political diversity is our great strength. So let's use that strength, shall we? And let's push the living daylights out of this petition. I don't think I've sworn even one time tonight. I'm on good behavior. So Kelly Arnold says, especially if we are heading into a severe recession or depression, heck yeah, it'll be perfect timing to erase the debt, kickstart the economy, and there is biblical sign to do this. And Trump is a Christian. He would understand the biblical view of forgiving this debt as well. Yeah, there's no doubt about it. There's a concept called, I think it comes from Leviticus, the concept of a debt jubilee. And this is a Judeo-Christian cultural activity, I guess, that happened routinely. Some people said every 7 years, other people say every 50 years. Even going back to ancient Assyria, it was common for new rulers to blow the horn, sound the jubilee, where all debts are erased. Because clearly, I think we've known for thousands of years at this point that debt is an artificial construct that can really blow up and become stupid. And certainly we have passed that threshold with student loans. Adam Smith, who wrote The Wealth of Nations many, many years ago, like 500 years ago or something, he agreed that, the wealth between nations is characterized by massive national bankruptcies and pretend payments between nations. It's just kind of the way it works. So anybody wagging their finger at you, they need to take a step back and look at the larger view, I think. And if you Google, Michael Hudson and the Washington Post, you can read an article far better than anything I've ever written on the larger view of Jubilee. And it starts to make a lot of sense. In fact, Dr. Hudson says that a general debt jubilee really is the only thing to stave off a depression in this current thing that we're going through. So I don't know if I agree with that or not, but certainly the most powerful economic stimulus that I can see the president doing right now, which does not further indebt our government, does not raise taxes on the people, is canceling student loans by far. It's the largest category of paper that the government owns. It's like comprises 40% of the entire federal loan portfolio. So that it's got to go. It's got to go. It's the low-hanging fruit for fiscal stimulus, and shrewdly, it's the right thing to do politically. But more than that, it's just the right thing to do socially. Because you know why. You're watching me. You know why. This debt is ridiculous. It wrecks your life. Even people like my physical therapist I went to today, pretty fresh out of college, maybe 5 or 10 years out of college, and I just mentioned student loans. He was like, "Oh, dude, my student loans are killing me," and he's not even in default. He did everything the right way. He refinanced his loans out of the federal program, which is a very smart thing to do. But even still, he's like, these loans are killing me. And what's the social value of completely making that whole thing evaporate? What's the social value there? There's a reason they call it a jubilee. Like, woo! Jubilee. It will greatly help this country. So, okay, folks. Oh, there was even more comments. I'm going to wrap this up in just a couple of minutes here. I've gone quite a lot longer than I had intended to. Tweet that petition. Oprah Winfrey, Donald Trump Jr. I just have a funny thing I like to do, just mention famous people's names at random, because those are the people that we should be twittering this petition to. John Connors says, I think the economy is unfortunately going to get worse. Yeah, that's pretty much what I'm taking from all the comments I'm seeing as well. We've never been through anything like this. We're seeing jobless rates like the likes of which we've never seen before. But then again, we know the cause, and we know the solution, certainly, to the cause. So we'll see where that goes. Kelly says, Jenny Allen just said no. You can ask him again. They'll take. Yeah, no, we're not getting. If you're a defaulted borrower, if you have an income tax, if you have a refund offset on your student loans already, and you're not getting your income taxes back, or if you didn't file taxes last year or the year before, you will not be getting a stimulus check. This is not going to happen. We went through this back in 2008 as well, by the way. So that is just what that is. All for everybody else, none for thee, apparently is the way of the world with student loan borrowers. So, folks, the last thing I will say is there is true strength in numbers. We're it. We're the only group I can really point to that's actually fighting this fight. Everybody with student loans needs to find us. We can only win this battle when we fight. But this petition growing is a key part of that. Our Facebook group is a key part of that. Our state chapter groups. Just please think of what you can be doing over the next week or 2 weeks to really be putting your back into this. Because I think, hard work inspires hard work. When people see you working really hard on something, that's inspiring. And hopefully it rubs off. And certainly I can say that a few people I see on this list have definitely been pulling their weight. Kyle, for example. We gave Kyle the badge of honor a week ago for getting literally kicked off Twitter, I think twice, for over posting links to our petition. So stuff like that really is inspiring. So if you have any similar stories about your efforts to fight for this petition, fight for bankruptcy protections, fight for student loan justice in general, let me know about them, because I love to brag on that kind of stuff. So with that, I will wish you all a great week, happy weekend. Say one last time, push the crap out of that petition, wherever it may be on your screen. And let's win this together. It's my new closing. Let's win this together.